We've been telling you all week. We've been teased, and we've been teasing you about who.
We've been teased.
Yeah, we have. Our management hasn't told us. They said, okay, on Friday at 10:20, you're going to have somebody show up on your screen, and you're going to be able to find out who your new surprise contributor is at sportshubstl.com. So I think we can put it up on the screen now.
My God, that's Bernie's music.
It sure is. There he is.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi.
My guy.
Peekaboo. Peekaboo.
Bernard J. Miklasz, how you doing? And welcome.
I don't know how I got in here. I thought, maybe I was trying to do a video or something. And I went to the wrong place. So this is an accident. I'm actually not the big surprise. I'm only kidding. It's wonderful to be with you all. I mean, I cannot tell you how thrilled I am. I've been wanting to have a platform where I can work for, someone that has been a dear friend of mine for 30 years, Dave Green, and to join a staff that's got Randy Karraker and Brooke. Sorry, I'm just so excited. I'm stammering. Brooke Grimsley. And all of these shows after games, I've never seen anything like this in this market or any other market where every local team, when they play, there's a live post-game show, streaming show. And St. Louis has never had a platform like this. And I know that it's going to take some time to build because this is a baby right now. But this is just an incredible opportunity for me. As I pivot into something where I really wanted to have a place where all my video stuff was there and all of my column writing was there. It's like one-stop shopping for people who are interested in my work. And it makes it easy for me because I like the identity of working for Sports Hub STL. And if I may just say so, I'm going to get all gushy here, but I mean it. Randy Karraker and I have worked together off and on for many, many years. I would say decades.
More than 40 years, Bernie.
It's unreal, man. And the last time Randy and I were together, we were at the National Football Foundation luncheon, and he was sort of being the host of it, and I was the special guest. And I told the crowd there, and I'm going to repeat what I said. I've been in radio in a long time in St. Louis, and the happiest days of my life in terms of working with someone was all of the time I spent with Randy Karraker. I mean, it has been one of the things that I really savor about my radio career, and to have a chance to be back at the same spot where Randy Karraker works, and hopefully, us doing some things just like this, popping on your show. I just cannot explain how meaningful that is to me. So, Randy, it's great to be with you again, and Brooke, I admire you, and we've just been getting to know each other, and this show is off to a great start. I love it.
Thank you. And the feeling is mutual, and Bernie, I love you, and I know that is reciprocated. And Bernie and I have talked about this before, because when we worked for Dave Green in the past, it was at AM 1380. Now we started
right.
out first. Let's start with this, Bernie, because we talked about 40 years ago, and KMOX was where I got my career started. I was there for 18 years, and they just announced that they're going to FM because AM radio is virtually dead. What we did at the beginning of our career, we can't do now. But 20 years ago, it was 05, we were together at 1380. And if you ever, as a kid, for Christmas or a birthday, got a walkie-talkie set, like one you and your buddy would talk to on walkie-talkies from one house to the other. That's about the power that 1380 had. And Bernie and I actually got radio ratings with
we did
like that. It was unbelievable.
We did, Randy. This is about the both of us. You have heard this for a lot, and I've heard this a lot. In fact, when I started my YouTube channel, and by the way, we'll talk about this, but my YouTube channel is going to be folded into Sports Hub STL. In other words, so I'm not going to be doing independent YouTube shows anymore. It'll be all part of this operation, and I'm thrilled with that because it'll look better, among other things. But when I started doing my YouTube, Randy, and this is I'm going to tell you something you already know because you hear it too. so many people watching would say to me, it's like, oh, listen, can you get Randy Karraker on? I love when you guys work together. I've gone way back. How about you and Randy doing this? How about you and Randy doing that? Can you get him on? Can he be part of your YouTube channel? And I mean, you have heard that a million times. I've heard that a million times. And so, yeah, here we are, man, back together again.
I love it. And Bernie, it's been so great getting to know you. As you mentioned, we're starting to get to know each other a little bit better. But when I moved here to St. Louis back in 2018, I remember I'm a huge sports radio fan. I remember turning into you and Randy all the time when I loved listening to you, Bernie, and Randy. I've already told you a million times. Love listening to you in the mornings too, because you guys have always done such a fantastic job and you're the voices of St. Louis. And I just am so lucky to be able to learn more and more from you guys. And this is just such a pleasure to have you part of Sports Hub STL. I know that you mentioned that you're going to be bringing in obviously your YouTube channel, but you mentioned writing too. And I think that's something good for people to know who are tuning in right now, that they can also find your writing here, because I love reading what you write all the time.
Yeah, and I've cut back on my writing while I was doing some other things, like getting the YouTube thing off the ground. And I know that none of you there mind me plugging something else. The fact that I do some online stuff for KMOX as far as like videos, and so I have that as a foundation too. But now I have a chance to just put all my YouTube stuff here, write all my columns here, and I think I'll have. During the weekday, I think I'll have a video every day, somewhere between 16, 24 minutes, and then occasionally longer. And then my plan is to write 4 columns a week, but probably 5. And I'm going to bring sort of like the Redbird review format, where after every Cardinals game, I sort of break it down and I go in a little deeper dive with some stuff, So this is really great to be able to, have everything in one place. But what's really exciting about it is just to be I'm not exactly on the ground floor, because you all started a little while ago, but just to join something entirely new and different and exciting in terms of St. Louis sports media, to just sort of get into this and become part of this in the early period as it's starting to grow.
Yeah,
Great.
and to complete my thought of earlier about terrestrial radio, and it's clearly where my foundation is. That's what I'll forever be known as a radio guy. But you and I, Bernie and Brooke and Matthew, we all understand the reality of where media and consumption is now. Brooke and Matthew both get most of what they consume off the phone. And even when we hop in our car, we're utilizing the telephone to consume things. So it's cool to be on the ground floor from that perspective, and to be able to have so many people get us at any time. If people want to hear or see Bernie at 2:30 in the morning, if you work a late shift and you want to see that, no problem. Just click on over here to sportshubstl.com and you'll be able to. You can consume it live. And so there are so many great things coming up for us at Sports Hub STL. Bernie, I want to get your take on the Cardinals, because I've spent the spring telling people we have to readjust our thought processes, because the Cardinals have told us they really aren't concerned about winning this year. And that's fair. I like what they're doing this year better than what they did last year. But I want to get your take on the spring and where the Cardinals are headed as we approach opening day.
The thing I've been trying to tell people, and there's been a little pushback, because although I've been very critical of a lot of things, in terms of the players themselves and this team, like taking the fact like whoever built the team, even to an extent whoever's managing the team, I'm talking about players and individual performances, because at the end of the day, they have to deliver, right? And it's like, I heard you guys talking about Mizzou, and it's not like, Dennis Gates, as Randy said, can call a timeout and said, well, we're only shooting 33%. So here's the plan, make more shots, you don't, what do you do when a team is slumping? And I know that you sort of build a culture and all that stuff, and it's all really important. I think they have a really good batting coach now. But my point being, and I'm rambling as usual, is that if you look at the hitters that they have, okay, we remember the sort of the most recent stuff that happened, because that's freshest in our memories. But if you look at Nolan Gorman and Jordan Walker, for example, you go back to 2023, which is not exactly like 9 years ago. It's 2 years ago. Both of those guys were very good at a very young age. You look at Alec Burleson last year. I mean, yeah, he ran out of gas in the last 6 weeks because he started swinging at everything again. But he was a really outstanding hitter for 4.5 months. Mason Wynn needs no reintroduction. When Lars Nootbaar plays, you're talking about a guy who combines a high walk rate, high on-base percentage, good power. He's not yet. He can be an elite hitter. Brendan Donovan, you know what you're going to get, and what you're going to get is good. High on-base percentage, more power, play all these different positions. You look at Wilson Contreras, and you know me, I'm stat boy. Over the last 2 seasons, as a Cardinal, he's the 10th best right-handed hitter in baseball among guys that have had 850 plate appearances. By him going to first, you got Ivan Herrera. Hopefully, if Marmol plays him as much as he should, Ivan Herrera was the second best hitter on the team last year, and he has got enormous potential offensively. My point is, I'm not going to dismiss the idea of some of these hitters rising up and being really good. I mean, I think you throw away what we saw last year with some of them, and you sort of revert back to okay, what are they capable of doing? Have we seen this in the recent past? And we have seen what they're capable of doing in the recent past. Now, the pitching, I think the bullpen's going to have to be, I can't ask them to be as great as they were last year, but they're going to have to be really, really good. And I also think that the 6-man rotation, I go back and forth on, but I think it'll be in their best interest before long to have both McGreevy and Matthews in that rotation. I don't have a particular date in mind, but they're going to have to evolve in that rotation.
I want to go back to Nolan Gorman for 1 second. And I'm not saying that he's going to become Kyle Schwarber, but if you look at Kyle Schwarber's second full season in the majors and look at Nolan Gorman's, they're very similar. Now, Gorman had the big fall off last year, but when we talk about capability, right. I think Schwarber's second year, he had a 29% strikeout rate. Gorman's was 31. Walk rates were pretty close. Home runs actually were pretty close in the second year for both. And the Cubs made the mistake of non-tendering Kyle Schwarber. I'm just concerned, and I know Brooke is too, about the Cardinals giving up on a guy like Gorman too soon. And Bernie, I'm of the opinion, you mentioned we always put Gorman and Walker in a sentence together, and that's because they're the two guys that are capable of being middle of the lineup presences, young players in the entire organization. I don't think the Cardinals have any other potential power hitters in the entire organization. I mean, 35 to 40 home run power hitters in the entire organization.
No, they've got to live with them. And I you know me, I have a million stats. I can't remember this one because I wrote it down somewhere, and I'm like the nutty professor. I got 6,000 sheets of paper here. But the Cardinals' record when Nolan Gorman hits a home run in a game. In fact, I did remember this. When he hits a home run in a game, this is how much impact he has in his career. When he homers in a game, they have a 750 winning percentage. I mean, you know, when he hits a home run in a game and doesn't strike out more than one time, the winning percentage is way up there too. So he just has to be more consistent, and we all know that. And I was disappointed the way he got off to such a great start last year. Through June 4th, he was slugging like 550 or something. And then he just fell off the cliff. And we know the reasons why, but I was still stunned by that because 2023 was so good for him. And then he rolled right into 2024 doing even better. And then all of a sudden, it was just like, poof, it imploded on him. And I think Brent Brown, the batting coach, is going to help him. And then one other guy I didn't mention, it's the most obvious guy in terms of seniority and all that. I think there's a chance that Nolan Arenado will bounce back. Bounce back to 2022? No. Those days are gone. But bounce back in terms of being about 15, 16% better than he was last year? Yeah. And I don't think it's crazy to say that. You know why? Because I pay attention to people I respect, like Dan Zaborski at Fangraphs and the people at Baseball Prospectus, and their models project Arenado improving offensively by about 15 to 16% from last year. And the other thing about Arenado, this one jumped out at me, and I was surprised I didn't discover it earlier. You know, Busch Stadium is still a very, very hard place to hit, right? Mm-hmm. He slugged 433 at Busch Stadium last year. That's really good. And so what I've been saying is like, look, I don't know what he's going to do, but I think it's stupid to just rule out a chance of a bounce back, because if you can slug 433 at Busch Stadium in a down year, there's a lot of juice left in your bat. That's what I'm saying. So I find him to be really intriguing as well.
Bernie, for all the people who are joining in right now, he will be a new contributor on Sports Hub STL, and we're very excited about that. Now, this story for spring training, it's like being a dead horse at this point. I'm sure that you've been asked about it. You've talked about it a million times. Who is going to be the Cardinals center fielder? In your opinion, what do you think is the best guy for that role?
It's got to be Victor Scott. Now, the only caveat I'll put to that is that I'm not sure what Ollie Marmol wants to do, and with input from the front office about, do they want to go with what they think would be their optimal outfield offensively if everybody does what they hope they do, which would be Donovan in left and Nootbaar in center, Walker in right. But Nootbaar would be an average, slightly below average center fielder. But I think Victor Scott would be an above average center fielder because John Jay's helped him immensely. And I think that Victor Scott represents what the Cardinals were hoping this season would be before it sort of got knocked off course because they couldn't trade Arenado, which created, as you know, a kind of a domino effect. And but Victor Scott, if you're going to announce that there's a competition, if you as an organization is going to say, well, we have a competition in center field, how in the world has Victor Scott not won the competition and won it easily? And one of the things I've heard from people, which is fine, is say, well, you know, Bernie, I like him too, but he had a really good spring last year and it really didn't matter. No. I got to say time out on that one. You know, he slugged like 360 in spring training last year and he didn't hit the ball hard. If you look at his numbers in spring training this year, you're seeing a guy doing things he didn't do last spring, which is draw walks, hit for average, hit for power, stealing bases. And he's improved defensively. So if this is about a runway season and giving younger players an opportunity, this dude is 24 years old. He has benefited tremendously with some of the coaching that's been brought in, like the way he hits the ball in terms of how his setup is totally different than last year. So if you're going to have a runway season and you're going to sell to the fans, well, you know, we're going to give young players an opportunity. Doesn't this guy represent exactly what you're espousing there? I mean, seriously, I think it'd be a huge credibility blow if they send him to the minors. The only way I could see it, and I don't even like it, but the only way I could see it is if they're committed to Nootbaar in center field. But the idea of Michael Ciani being the center fielder over Victor Scott it's preposterous. Okay, it really is. You have a lousy offense. You can't afford the luxury of having a defense-only center fielder. You can put him on the bench, and that's why they have late-inning defensive replacements, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
How do you like those long answers, Randy?
I love it because I get so much detail, and I always learn stuff. And I want to have I need to hear this from you because I don't know the answer from a numerical standpoint, and I know you know these numbers. Not that I expect Victor Scott to steal 110 bases, but when Vince Coleman was a rookie, he stole 110. He was thrown out 25. He stole about 81%. What is an acceptable stolen base percentage for a guy like Victor Scott? If you give him a green light, what's an acceptable percentage for him in terms of a success rate?
It used to be, before they changed the rules to make it easier to steal bases. That was only a couple of years, as you guys know. It used to be the rule of thumb, so to speak, is like you've got to have a success rate of at least 75%. If you don't, you're basically giving too many outs away. And we saw that a lot with some Cardinals managers, you know, who were, you know, well, we're going to try to run. We're going to try to run. Yeah, they ran into outs. Okay. You don't, like Earl Weaver, my idol manager, said, see the book there, by the way, see it there on the orange book there. That's new Earl Weaver biography. Earl Weaver, in his classic book about managing, he was way ahead of his time. He said, you get 27 outs per game. They're precious commodities. You can't give them away. And so he hated sacrifice bunts, although he was a little more positive about him than he let on. But he didn't want to steal unless he was really confident that they'd steal at a high rate, which they did, the Orioles, for the most part. So anyway, with the new rules changes, I think it's more like 77, 78%. But I have no doubt that Victor Scott can do that. Because his history tells us. I mean, in 2023, was it in the minors, he stole 92 bases, but his caught stealing rate was very, very low. I mean, they couldn't get this guy out. So he's a natural at this, and his techniques have gotten better with some really good coaching as well.
Bernie, you touched on the 6-man rotation, and I wanted you to expand upon that because it is really interesting. When you were mentioning runway with Victor Scott II, Michael McGreevy is another guy who I think deserves a shot in the starting rotation. It looks like he's been so impressive this spring training that they're going to give him a chance. But as a part of this 6-man rotation, how do you feel about that?
Well, if I had a policy, I'm not opposed to the idea in general. And I know I watched Randy, and Randy doesn't like it. And his reasoning, is not something I would push back on, because you had me laughing, and that's a good thing when I saw you just shoot down the idea of a 6-man rotation. I have mixed feelings on it, but I also don't want to be a hypocrite, because in the past I've thought the Cardinals could have benefited from using it, but this is a different situation. And here's my thing. If you're going to go with a 6-man rotation, Michael McGreevy has got to be a part of it, and he's got to be a starter. I don't want. Listen, this team completely messed up Zach Thompson, because he's a bullpen. No, he's a starter. Oh, he's back in the bullpen. No, he's a starter. Now go to Memphis. Oh, come back. You're a starter. You're a reliever. You're a starter. I mean, my goodness. And they've done the same thing to Matthew Liberatore. I mean, he made 6 starts last year. 5 of those were those bullpen openers. One of those came when he pitched the night before. So Liberatore, I think, if he ever had a full-time opportunity to be a starter, I think he's starting to come into his own, and he's got really good stuff. And with Chaim Bloom coming in, their pitching coordinator, they're going to find ways to give him an off-speed pitch that's better, that he can use against right-handed hitters. But my point is, I don't want to see them do to McGreevy what they've done to Liberatore and Thompson. If that's what a 6-man rotation is, where, okay, well, you're not going to start for a while, go to the bullpen, and then if we need you, we'll start. No, I don't want to see that on a young arm like that, because it's been really disappointing, the examples of Zach Thompson and Matthew Liberatore. And Liberatore's got real talent. He's still really young too. Yeah,
I'm with you. And I would. Here's my thing, Bernie. There has to be a team out there that would take Eric Fetty to be their 3rd or 4th starter at $7.5 million. I'd much rather live without Eric Fetty, take my chances on my starting pitching depth, than because I know this is what they'll do. They'll pitch Gray every 5th day. They'll pitch Miklasz every 5th day. And that'll mean people like McGreevy is set back, and he'll be pitching every 8th or 9th day. And you can't do that to McGreevy and Palante. That's not how you're going to advance those guys, so that when your position players are ready to win, your pitchers are ready to win. They've got to be in sync, I think, with developing their young pitchers and their young hitters.
No doubt about it. See, I want that consistency. Listen, I'm not an old timer in that, like, where you're either a starter or a reliever. I know that there's situations where guys can do that. I just don't think that it should be a young pitcher who has not established himself as a starting pitcher, where you're doing the yo-yo, but, up and down, back and forth, side to side. I mean,
Bernie, McGreevy threw 173 innings last year.
I know, right? Exactly.
Yeah, he's a starter.
And your point about Fetty, I smiled because, I think there'd be a market for him, because the Texas Rangers, who are a smart organization, they just signed Patrick Corbin, who makes Miles Michaelis look like Bob Gibson. Okay. So it's like, I think maybe there's a market for Eric Fetty. And if they don't want to trade him now, which is okay, the season's about to start. I mean, you can't just let him walk away without getting a prospect or two in return. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah. This is going to be so much fun. I'm so looking forward to it. So glad to be reunited. So we were, Bernie and I did KMOX together. We did 1380 together. We did 101 together. And now here we are on the Sports Hub STL. We are on the interwebs.
Yeah, I'm excited. And I just want to thank everyone there in advance. I'm impressed by Dave Green's operation that he set up. And, Joe Roderick and some people that I've known but have never had a chance to work with. And can I just say this too before I go? And I'm not. I don't want to take up too much time, but I want to praise this setup. I've been watching all these post-game shows, live post-game shows, like I said, for every sport. No one ever has even remotely come close to this in this market. Live streams after every game. And another thing I love about Dave Green and I love about this site already, or this streaming service already, the YouTube channel, whatever you want to call it. I watch the post-game live streams and I see a lot of young people doing this, right? Dave Green is giving an opportunity to new blood media people that are just starting their careers or trying to build on their early careers. He's giving opportunities to people that want to work hard and they have talent and they just needed a place to take that talent and get their reps. And I think that that's really important because Randy Karraker is a St. Louis legend. I'm an old fart. I'll just say that. And it's really important for someone in the market to take an active interest in giving young media people a chance. And I think that that's another reason why I love what's going on at Sports Hub STL.
Yeah, it's very well said, and it needs to be pointed out more. It's a thrill for me to work with young people, and as you said, what we're doing is unprecedented in having a post game for every show, for every game, and whenever anything breaks. Whenever the Cardinals do make an announcement that they're going to have a six-man rotation, or if there is a trade, we'll be on to react to it immediately, and we'll do it because we can. It's going to be pretty cool.
See, the other thing I'd add, we're all my praise for the young people. I'm not so sure about this Rockio decision, but no, I'm just kidding. I love the guy. So yeah, I had to get in a shot on somebody, right? Thank you guys. Thank
Have
you.
a great
Love
weekend,
you both.
Bernie. We'll talk to you.
Thanks,
Take
Bernie.
care. Thank you.
Thanks.